what you can say, undoubtedly, is it's your odds increase to find a really good player at number 6 versus number 12. Now, you look at the last 10 years of number 6 overall picks, pretty good record, to be honest. Number 12, it starts to fall off, as you would imagine. But there's good players right here in this team. The best player, the best pure football player on this team, the Philadelphia Eagles, remains Fletcher Cox, who was once picked 12th in the draft. We're extending the play. John McMullen, Johnny Mac, with you alongside Ryan Rothstein. Welcome back. Never happier to see you, as I mentioned. And as I mentioned yesterday on The Fix, and you can listen to me every night, Monday through Friday, with Ryan there at 7:30 here on AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio. Exciting news with the Philadelphia Eagles. As usual, they never a dull moment with this team, and obviously a lot of controversy. God bless Howie Roseman, because he keeps us talking. He keeps us talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, and there's a lot of people happy, a lot of people upset. Ryan, trading down in the draft, I do think I want to get into it, and we're going to have a friend of the show, Bob Groats, today, who everyone loves, so we'll get his take on it. But first off, I want yours, and that's the fact that the Eagles moved down from 6 to 12, and you have this sort of disconnect of people. You have to build around Jalen Hurts, and I call them the blindly loyal people. I mean, you can't be certain about Jalen Hurts. On the other hand, if you're not certain about a quarterback in the top 5, there's nothing wrong with accumulating draft capital. So where do you stand on this trade?
I'm fine with it. I mean, I'm absolutely fine with it. I think the only thing that I question, and, I asked you some of these questions last night on the show, like, what's their plan? Like, what's the team's plan? And you brought up, like, it's you have more room now to go down different avenues with the 12th overall pick. So just to not throw hot takes against the wall and see if they stick, but are they just kind of backing out of a top 6 or 7 pick because they don't really know what to do with it? They'd rather be in this position. And listen, I think this is a better position overall for the franchise. So I'm not being like completely idiotic about it, but there is part of me that says, man, there could have been an opportunity to get Kyle Pitts or a guy that maybe really can be a game-changing player for a franchise at 6. That guy doesn't exist at 12.
Well, I do think I'm going to use two terms I hate using because everybody uses them. And I'm going to go Daryl Morey on you. Optionality, that's one.
I like that.
Versus the generational talents, which is what people are saying about Kyle Pitts or Jamar Chase or whoever you want at that pick. But, people throw the second one around. I don't like the first one because Sam Hinkie, I hate to even bring up that word, but obviously Sam got it from Daryl. Now Daryl's here, so it's actually Daryl's word, so now I can use it. But, so secondly, the generational talent, does it not dawn on people what that means? I mean, just let's break out the word. Pet peeve. Johnny Mac, pet peeve time.
Let's do it.
Generational talent means generational talent. Means once in 20 years. You're going to tell me...
Like Matisse Thybulle, for example.
or Tyrese Maxey. You're going to tell me Kyle Pitts is a generational talent? Now...
We don't know.
Yeah, exactly. None of us know. I mean, the draft is an inexact science. But, look, what you can say, undoubtedly, is it's your odds increase to find a really good player at number 6 versus number 12. Now, you look at the last 10 years of number 6 overall picks, pretty good record, to be honest. Number 12, it starts to fall off, as you would imagine. But there's good players right here in this team. The best player, the best pure football player on this team, the Philadelphia Eagles, remains Fletcher Cox, who was once picked 12th in the draft. So if you're not happy with Fletcher Cox, there's something wrong with you. So it's not like you can't find a very good player at that position.
Well, and that's my overall point with the draft in the NFL, the NBA. It's a crapshoot. I tweeted yesterday, it's like this trade to me is like moving your $10 on the roulette table from the number 13 to the number 19. Like it might hit, it might hit on either one.
Yeah. But then there's the sort of, I don't know if it's a duality, but you do have, you have to build around Jalen Hurts, which I have been honest about. I don't understand that. Why do you have to build around a guy who started 4 games, was the number 53 overall pick? But a lot of people, and by the way, that doesn't mean you can't build around him. I'm not leaving. Look, he's got a ceiling as a player. I'm saying you can't be blindly loyal if you're the Philadelphia Eagles and say, okay, we're done. This is my guy. This is my quarterback. He hasn't proven that.
Yeah, but it's not. I look at it as not building around Jalen Hurts. I look at it as building your team. Like, they need a receiver. They need more weapons.
They need everything.
Yeah. So
they need everything.
I don't look at it as building around him per se. I look at it as, okay, can we get someone that we believe can be productive at this position at 6 this year, and then down the road.
So I'm going to give a cheap plug, and not for Birds 365, although I give a cheap plug for that coming up, and that's my new show with Jody McDonald on PhillyVoice.com and YouTube that starts April 5th or 6th. What's the day after Easter?
I think it's the 5th.
April 5th.
Yep.
So everybody tune into that, PhillyVoice.com, as I mentioned. But this notion that Howie Roseman, I wrote about this in PhillyVoice.com, and it was more about Nick Sirianni's got to be a politician with Jeffrey Lurie. I think that's exactly what Howie Roseman has done. He was given this sort of tablet from above, tablet from the mount, said, build around Jalen Hurts, Howie Roseman. And Howie said, this guy's a lunatic. So I'm gonna acquiesce him and say, hey, we're gonna build, but I'm gonna create those paths. I'm gonna create those Daryl Morey optionality methods. Look, we'll see. We got a new coaching staff. We'll see if Jalen Hurts can develop. And these people saying you can't judge him because he doesn't have a proper supporting cast. Well, you already judged him by saying he's the guy. These are the people saying he's the guy. How do you know he's the guy if you can't judge him? Number one. So, and then the second part is if he fails and if the coaching staff says, okay, this is just not our guy, then we have those 3 first-round picks. We can go up and get whoever we want in the draft, or if Russell Wilson's on the trading block. Of course, he's going to be 33 at that time. We'll have those discussions. Deshaun Watson, if he's not in jail, if he's not in prison, we'll have those discussions.
Or elsewhere.
Yeah, or elsewhere, or anybody else who gets disgruntled. Maybe we're talking about Aaron Rodgers at this time next year, even older. Yeah. But who knows? They have everything to get anybody. So I think Howie, played the politician. I think he did it brilliantly. People are going to kill me for that. I think he did it brilliantly.
No, and I would agree. I just think maybe, the phrase, who hurt you? Well, the Eagles have hurt us, time and time again. So the trust is just not 100% there all the time with this team. And, you just have to question everything. Like, are they kicking the can down the road? Like, basically, that's just a different...
Well, they are. Yeah. But, they're not ready to win.
No, they're not. But a 6th overall pick is not something that comes around all the time. No. But it is a funny spot because outside the top 5, what do you really have?
Well, before we get to the break, that's the second part. I got into this with you last night, and I want to continue it. That's what we do here, extending the play. The value of that pick. This team has picked 4 times in the top 10 since Andy Reid got here in 1999. So we'll get into all of this as we break it down. Eagles trade, extending the play, AM 1490, Sports Betting Radio.
Eagles! Jody Mack, the legendary sports talker, joins forces with NFL insider John McMullen. Start your morning with Johnny Mack and Jody Mack across the JAKIB Media Network.
Welcome back to the program, South Jersey Extending the Play, AM 1490, Sports Betting Radio. As we said before the break, breaking down the big trade, the Eagles moved down from number 6 to number 12 overall. Also, if all things go correctly, they'll have 3 first-round picks in the 2022 draft. To break it down, friend of the show, very popular part of the show, my good friend Bob Groats from the Delaware County Times, host of the Pro Football Report with the legendary voice of the Eagles, Merrill Reese. Bobby, welcome back to the program.
Good morning. Good morning, John. And I couldn't help but think, John, as soon as you said, they could end up with, the Eagles could end up with 3 first-round picks, this trade guarantees that Carson Wentz won't play 70% of his snaps next year.
Yeah, that is a possibility. Obviously, if he stays healthy, I think he's going to play. Even if the Colts play poorly, I think he's going to get to 75%. So to me, it just means if he doesn't get there, he's not going to be healthy because they don't have another option. But that's what it's about. Howie Roseman, before he came on, Ryan and I were talking about optionality, that Sixers quote, Daryl Morey, Sam Hinkie. That's sort of what he did. You sit back and you evaluate Jalen Hurts for a season, see what you have. And if you don't have anything, in theory, you're in a great position to either go up in the draft if you have to or trade for a veteran quarterback, whether it's Russell Wilson, whether Deshaun Watson, the allegations around him are cleared up. Even Aaron Rodgers, if you think about it. There's going to be people available that the Eagles could go after. What's your broad sort of stroke of this trade and the philosophy behind it?
Yeah, I think it's the best. I think this is the smartest thing they've done in the offseason. It was clear to them by the movement already. San Francisco moving up. I think Carolina is still going to move up too. I think Carolina was bidding for that 3rd pick too, and they will move up at some point. I think the Eagles looked at that and they thought, hey, the guys that we want, and they, as far as I know, there was one guy that they wanted a receiver really bad, and they wanted the best receiver. They wanted Jamar Chase, and they didn't think he was going to be there. They didn't think there was any way he'd be there at 6, and they didn't want to trade up anymore to get there. So, they retreated, and they got the extra first-round pick. 6 to 12, that seems like a big jump to Eagles fans, but that's not a bad idea. And really, when I look at the stuff that they've done in this offseason, that is to me, that's technically sound. And because they have a pretty good idea who's going to be coming off the board, and most teams do it this time. So I'm okay with this. I don't think it's a bad idea. The one player was not going to fix that team. If they got lucky and the guy that they really wanted slipped to them, okay, go ahead and take him. But otherwise, I think this is a decent move. Obviously you got to draft the right guys now. And you know what, John, the other thing, and we've spoken about this before, when you get these trades and stuff and when the board starts moving and maybe Carolina doesn't trade until, right before the draft or other things happen, that chaos there represents opportunity to teams that draft. There's going to be guys that kind of drop that were unanticipated at the last minute and that type of thing. So there's going to be opportunity in this draft for the Eagles to become a better football team.
You mentioned something interesting there, Bob, chaos, and you're right. I mean, when you see these things happen in the draft, and that kind of one thing that I don't understand is why so early? Why make this move so early? If you do like Jamar Chase, or if you do say, we want Zach Wilson, but he's not going to be there, whatever the philosophy is, why this early? instead of seeing how things shake out on draft night and then potentially make the move. And all I can go back to, and let me see what your thought is on this, is, since Andy Reid got here, let's be honest, that's sort of the modern generation of the Eagles. Their DNA has been quarterback, offensive line, defensive line when they're at the top of the draft. So I looked at it, Bob. 4 times since 1999, they were in the top 10. Donovan McNabb, Corey Simon, Lane Johnson, Carson Wentz. Quarterback, defensive line, offensive line, quarterback. Is it just they don't value that wide receiver position, tight end, if it's Kyle Pitts, whatever? Is it just about the valuation of the position?
No, I think it's specific people, and if it, a quarterback, definitely that would be a thing that you would value. But in this case, I think it was a specific player, and I also think that they got involved now because I think they believed that this was the best they were going to do. I mean, if they hung in there at 6, they weren't going to get the guy they wanted. They were going to, it was going to be tough to trade out of that pick, and they're going to end up with a guy, probably a good player, obviously. And but do you really want to? Do you want to start your rebuilding with a guy like Pitts or with? He's a good player, and I understand that. I know Dan Jeremiah loves the guy. He should be his agent.
Loves him, yeah, he should.
Promoted him, I mean, he loves him. But you need somebody that stretches the defense like Chase. A guy with speed, and he's going to come down with the ball, and he's got some size too. You kind of made that mistake a few years ago by drafting J.J. Arcega-Whiteside instead of the guy that ended up with the Seattle Seahawks and is killing it out there. So, but even then, I mean, Chase is a special guy. So, I think that's what it was. They did not. I mean, they looked at that board and they also had an idea of other teams that were going to move up. And they decided that this was if we can make a deal now, and they probably have been talking with other teams. Probably were talking with San Francisco, and and not specifically about the 6th pick, but about probably had dialogue with them about what they some moves that they had in mind. So I think this was the best that they could do. They And let's be honest too about where the Eagles are right now. They have no money to spend, really. They need to hit on draft picks to stock this roster with guys that they can afford. And hopefully they make the right picks, and these guys can play for a few years until they get out of salary cap hell, and they can compete. So. I think this was a decent strategic move, and they felt like they had to do it now because the offer would not have been as good. They might not have been able to do anything, as we got closer to the draft.
All right, well, let me throw this angle at you, Bob. And we're talking with Bob Garotz, sports writer extraordinaire with the Delco Times. Covers the Eagles better than anybody. Follow him online on Twitter at Bob Garotz. But you mentioned that receiver position, Bob, and you mentioned J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. That's a premium pick. That's a second-round pick. Then last year, you draft Jalen Reagor at number 21 overall. That's obviously a premium pick. What about the political nature? How can you keep taking swings at the receiver position? Does that affect the organization's thinking? And at what point do you have to develop the players you have? I mean, that's part of it. It doesn't stop when you draft a kid.
That's a huge thing. You're absolutely right about that. And you don't want to become the Detroit Lions, where you're drafting every year. You're drafting a receiver, and once in a while it works out. So, and also you want to be able to hit on your other picks, the second round picks, like. I thought J. Jaw was going to I thought he was going to contribute last year, and again, proven wrong again. And
I think we all.
I don't know what I would do with him right now, but and definitely let's be honest about DK Metcalf. How good he's been with the Seahawks and how they could have had him, but
and also Jefferson this year.
Yeah. I mean, can we ever trust what the Eagles do at wide receiver after all these moves? I guess that's the question now is. But Chase is really good, and I think he's going to be a difference maker. I think that would have been, but would I have done that? Would I have stayed there if Chase was going to drop down to 6? I don't think so. I still would have tried to trade back, but maybe this team is just they have so many needs and they kind of wanted to see what was out there with other positions and that and right now the best thing to do was to get that first round pick and I know you're not the biggest fan of Jalen Hurts. And it's tough to evaluate what he did last year. But it sure seems like when you look at the big picture here that he's on a real short leash. Like he's got one year to prove what he can do. So and really with this team, it's been find the quarterback first, and it looks like right now that they still don't even know that this is going to be their guy, and for good reason. He hasn't played a lot, Jalen Hurts, but so maybe they are. The whole deal could be that they think it's best just to lay up until next year. Hit the ball back into the fairway. They're way out of bounds right now. So hit the ball back into the fairway. Get a look and see where the cup is, where the hole is, and work from there. And but the other side of that is too. Maybe Hurts is the guy. I think he's got a lot of skill. This quarterback coach Brian Johnson, he's supposed to be really good, and we'll see what happens, what develops from there.
Yeah, and you're right on Jalen Hurts. It's not that I'm not high on him. It's just that I don't think anybody can be. Anyone could know about him after that short stint last season. He was the 53rd pick in the draft. He was a second rounder, so he doesn't have that top tier skill set. And the report that Jeffrey Lurie instructed Howie to build around Jalen Hurts, I didn't think that was the proper way to go. So where I do give Howie credit, I think he was a good politician. I think he listened to Jeffrey Lurie and he said, okay, but I'm going to give myself different avenues. And I think that's what he was able to do. Maybe Jalen Hurts works out, plays lights out next season, and then you say, we got 3 first-round picks to build up the roster around him, plus all that money because you've taken the medicine for the Carson Wentz dead money. I got to be honest, Bob. I'm giving Howie an A on this trade. I really am. Yeah. People aren't going to like that.
You're right. If that works out, right, exactly. I'm kind of, I got to admit, John, and you know how much I like Hurts' skill set, and I like his instincts as a quarterback. He's not the biggest guy, but I like just about everything about his game. But I still, it sure looks to me like they want to use this year to evaluate completely, and go for a quarterback next year. And so we're talking about we were thinking about at least a 2-year job before they rebuilding job before they got good again. So this could make it 3, but this Eagles team, you got to start somewhere, and rebuilding is never fun, especially when you're rebuilding in a division where you got a bunch of teams that are not playing great, and they also have a lot of issues, and you keep thinking of would-ups and could-ups. That's going to be really painful for Eagles fans.
All right, and you bring up that evaluation. That's a good segue, Bob. So I want you to hold on throughout the break because I got a good conspiracy theory for you after the break, and I want to run it by you. and see what you think of it. And I think the foil hat people are going to be excited by this. So that's what Bob Gross will be back. More extending the play here on AM 1490. Stay tuned, South Jersey.
The middle.
We need a Lil Maze. Wait,
Yeah.
what was the commercial?
Yeah, Harry goes, I don't need a Lil anything.
You'd have Lil Harry or Lil Maze.
Lil Maze.
And you pull a
Mini
string,
Maze.
and it says, I am out. Or sort of like 4 or 5 different Maze sayings.
Now that's an idea. Did you see a Shander doll? It never stops talking.
No.
You don't even need to pull the string.
The Middle with Eitan Shander, Barrett Brooks, and Harry Mays. Weekdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern.
Welcome back to the program, AM 1490, Sports Betting Radio, extending the play, the trade edition. Howie Roseman acting early, moving back in the draft from number 6 overall to number 12, plus picking up an extra first-rounder in 2022, where in theory the Eagles will be ready to compete. They will be flush with money after taking their medicine with Carson Wentz this season. To discuss it all, we bring back Bob Groats, my buddy from the Delaware County Times. Does a great job covering the Eagles. Follow him on Twitter at Bob Groats. That's Grotz. And Bob, before the break, I mentioned that conspiracy theory. So I want to throw it out there. We were talking quarterbacks and Jalen Hurts. Okay. Now, Howie Roseman is really good friends with Lincoln Riley. That's the first person he called after the Eagles fired Howie Roseman. But Lincoln Riley's too smart to take over a rebuilding situation. One of the prospects who's probably going to be at the top of the 2022 draft board is Spencer Rattler, the quarterback of the Oklahoma Sooners. Is Nick Sirianni just a dupe for Lincoln Riley and Spencer Rattler in 2022?
I haven't looked at much of what he's done, but I've heard that Lincoln Riley has the ear of the Eagles, and
He does.
Yes, specifically the owners. So would not surprise me. I don't know. I mean, a lot can happen between now and then, and you probably have to tank too, right, John?
Well, in theory, if they're just a bad football team, they're a bad football team. So,
so
that's,
if you were going to tank, you should have kept Doug Peterson around, right?
You don't want to do that to the Super Bowl winner. You don't want to ruin that.
Yeah. Would that be in play? Yeah, depending on what he does.
I mean, a lot has to happen. And by the way, this is not anything that anyone has brought up or surmised or anything of that nature. But if Rattler turns into the type of prospect a lot of people think he's going to be, and he turns into that number 1 type overall selection, and the Eagles are in a position in 2022 to say, okay, we saw Jalen Hurts. He's not the guy. We got to go in a different direction. And he's sort of the flavor of the month. Why not bring the two together? In theory, if he's number 1 overall, that means he had a great season at Oklahoma. And that means Lincoln Riley's going to be pretty hyped up about him as well. And maybe get your first chance at coach in the second year. I mean, they're not married to Nick Sirianni. Who's Nick Sirianni?
No. Yeah. I don't think he's, And, going back to even Doug Peterson, I mean, there were doubts about him his first year, right?
Yeah,
there were
certainly.
a lot of us that wondered, hey, is this guy, is he really the guy? Especially the way his fourth down philosophy back then was all over the place. And he lost a couple games. So, and the coach is supposed to win you at least one a year. Yeah, that would be... I don't know. Lincoln Riley, though, I mean, don't you think this would have been the year that he would have wanted to come back? Well, actually, though, you had the Wentz situation. So you'd have to add that to it. There's no way he would want to step into a controversy with Wentz and come off as the guy who was a factor in forcing him out. So that works for your conspiracy theory. Let's not forget, though, that Lincoln Riley also coached Jalen Hurts and did a great job with him and knows him pretty well.
Well, that's true.
So,
and that's the conspiracy
yeah,
people were saying this season, that he would like to come coach Jalen Hurts. But, a lot of it stems from Urban Meyer in Jacksonville. Urban Meyer wasn't going to Jacksonville unless he was able to get Trevor Lawrence. Now, he doesn't have a history, but the point being, if you're going to be a coach in this league, let's be honest, you got to be married to a really good quarterback. So if Lincoln Riley sees an opening and says, this kid's just unbelievable, I already know him, I already coach him, I can go into an NFL job together, that's another optionality. That's what I'm talking about with Howie Roseman. You argue, Bob, you said Lincoln Riley has the ear of the Philadelphia Eagles. He's the reason Jalen Reagor's here. And they picked Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. Lincoln Riley pushed that.
Yeah, well, I'm not married to Jalen Reagor, not like I would be to one of the receivers in this draft. But that's an interesting point too. You're right. I mean that Reagor thing, everybody thinks it came out of left field. Now they were thinking about him for a while. So, that's what came out after he got drafted. He still could end up being a player, but he's really raw still as a receiver. He's got ability, but you gotta stay healthy in that. So, this is that influence. I mean, so in essence, the part of the theory is the Eagles are being micromanaged by somebody in Oklahoma.
I don't think it goes that far.
Yeah,
but
the call center.
Yeah,
they gotta check in with the call center in Oklahoma and then get back to us.
I do think they value his opinion. I'm not trying to say that he's making decisions, but I do think they check in, they value his opinion. But hey, it's Saturday morning. I wanted to jolt people awake with their coffee with a little.
There's no question about that either. You're right, John. And the guy, you look at his offense. What is it? The air raid. That thing is whatever they call it now. That thing is outrageous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody who plays quarterback for him, it just has outrageous numbers, and obviously, Jalen Hurts is runner-up to the Heisman before you have the Heisman winner, and now you have another kid who's going to be in the top 10 conversation when he comes out, and Rattler. So he keeps doing it over and over. But okay, I want to get back on the rails and talk about number 12. I mean, now, okay, you don't have 6. You're probably going to draft at 12. So what is in play there? Devontae Smith, maybe? Talk about Heisman Trophy winners. Corner, Patrick Surtain.
Right. I don't think he'll make it to there, and I don't think for sure Pitts will make it there. I think someone will take him. Either the Cowboys or the Giants will grab him. They both need tight ends. But maybe Jalen Waddle, who was having a great career at Alabama until he fractured his ankle. And if he's back, if he's all the way back from that injury, that would be a good take at 12. But also there's you at some point you got to look at a cornerback safety or a cornerback safety. That J.C. Horn guy.
J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain.
He could do both of those,
Caleb Farley, maybe?
Right.
But, it's interesting.
You know what? I like Farley. I like Farley the best, and then I like J.C. Horn, and then Surtain. I think those guys could be there. But, another guy who could be there, is Micah Parsons. But then you're looking at that off-the-field stuff, and I don't, the stories that I've read, you guys have written some interesting stories about him, and he doesn't, he strikes me as a guy that he reminds me of like that Randy Gregory in Dallas. He says that he tries to say the right things, but even then it doesn't come out right. I think he's an off the field problem waiting to happen. Great talent, no doubt about it. So I would stay away from him. I really like his skill set though. He reminds me of LeVar Arrington, only faster. So the Penn State guys. So I think you could be seeing a shift towards defense because I don't see them going with an offensive lineman there unless somebody slipped. But again, if there's more movement at the top of that board, if things get shaken up a little more, someone very easily could make a mistake and reach and go for a need, and there could be a great player there. And if it's somebody like Waddle, who I think he's really good, I would jump on it.
Yeah, Bob, I think a lot of people forget with Waddle. Waddle was the guy at Alabama before he got hurt. And only then did Devontae Smith kind of step forward and turn into the Heisman winner that he eventually was. But, I mean, Waddle's numbers early in the season were outrageous. I mean,
right.
And if anything,
he's more of a slot guy, John. For sure in the NFL, he projects Waddle to the slot, not wide receiver. But the matchup issues, you talk about issues with Pitts. You'd rather have Pitts to create the issues, the matchup issues. But Waddle would, in the slot, I mean, you're talking about like 100-catch type of ability.
A lot of times, you get knocked down if you're sort of labeled as just a slot guy. That's what happened to Justin Jefferson last year. We saw how that worked out. He played,
you're right.
He played outside and played it well. And also, you mentioned offensive line. I go back. I mean, that's what this team believes in. And you talk about Rashawn Slater and Vera Tucker from USC, guys like that. Yeah, always have to talk about the lines when it's the Philadelphia Eagles. That's what they believe in, the edge rushers as well. So Gregory Rousseau, Katie Payne, the kid from Michigan.
Yeah, Katie Payne, right? Uh-huh.
They have so many more avenues, and I think that's a part of what Howie was doing as well, because they don't value certain positions at 6, but at 12, I think they find it more palatable, if that's the correct term.
Yeah, and what if the Eagles around draft day? What if they pull off another blockbuster? What if somebody like Fletcher Cox gets traded with that contract?
Now you're blowing people's minds.
Right. I mean, they have some other things that they could do. Zach Ertz, that would be the time to trade him, right around the draft.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't get they don't get their tight end, or I think we're still we're not done with the deals yet. I think that's just like the primer, or this trade back to 12 and for the extra pick next year is first rounder is just a primer. I think there's going to be more action, and I think the action could well include a high price veteran or two.
All right, you heard it from Bob Groats, a primer. We're going to be here on Extending the Play throughout the draft and obviously going through it all. Bob will certainly be back. He's one of our favorites, one of the listeners' favorites. So I want to thank you for jumping on. Read Bob at the Delaware County Times. Follow him on Twitter at Bob Groats. During the season, listen to him, the Pro Football Report with Bob and Merrill Reese. And we're going to put a bow on this trade, at least for this Saturday morning, as we come back down the home stretch, finish it up. Extending the Play, AM 1490, Sports Betting Radio.
E-A-T-L-E-S-E-O! Jody Mack, the legendary sports talker, joins forces with NFL insider John McMullen. Start your morning with Johnny Mack and Jody Mack across the JAKIB Media Network.
Welcome back, AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio, Extending the Play, the trade edition. Howie Roseman trading down, getting out at number 6 overall, number 12, optionality, 3 potential first-round picks, as long as our old friend Carson Wentz carries his water in Indianapolis. That's what the Eagles will have 2022, plus they will be flush with cash. You have, let's face it, a non-pandemic NFL, so in theory you're going to have that spike in revenue, plus the new TV deals will be a year off, so that won't come into it yet. But you're seeing a significant increase in salary cap room because the Eagles swallowed their medicine with Carson Wentz. They're paying all of that $33.8 million in dead money this season, so you kind of clean the books for 2022. I don't want to call it a process because I hate that term, Ryan, but I am.
You got to trust it, John.
Yeah, it's. We'll call it we'll use Jeffrey Lurie's term. We'll call it the transition period. And the Eagles are kind of shifting gears towards 2022 with an eye on spending a year evaluating Jalen Hurts. But one thing I said to Bob, and I want to bring it up to you now, is my conspiracy theory, because I want to jolt people awake.
Yes.
And get them ready to go. It's a nice day. Got to get out. Things are opening. Have some fun. But I'm thinking, look, we reported at Sports Illustrated. Everybody else confirmed it. Ed Kratz, my buddy there, I give him credit. The first call the Eagles made after firing Doug Peterson was to Lincoln Riley to be the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. And guess what? If he would have said yes, he'd be the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. So if you fast forward to 2022, Jalen Hurts has not performed well. The Eagles are looking to get another quarterback. Spencer Rattler, who is the star quarterback of the Oklahoma Sooners, turns into a top 5 pick. And you can get the combination of Lincoln Riley and Spencer Rattler. I don't think it's crazy.
It's completely crazy. It's insanity. I mean, John, I wouldn't hate it, though. I wouldn't hate it. But, dude, they just hired an entire new coaching staff.
But that's
so they
the thing,
fire the whole staff?
Ryan, if people forget, in 2016,
It's nuts.
they at least talked about moving on from Doug Peterson. And he won 7 games
After
with a
year
rookie
one.
quarterback.
Right.
After year 1.
Right.
It was discussed. They wanted to move on from Frank Reich. They wanted to fire Frank.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
you're
they
telling me, let's say the Philadelphia Eagles go 3-13. Who the heck is Nick Sirianni? Nothing against him. I hope Nick Sirianni turns into the next Andy Reid.
Sure.
I don't know anything about him. Nobody knows anything about him. Maybe he's the next Bill Walsh. Maybe he's the greatest coach in league history. Maybe he's the next Bill Belichick. More likely, I'm not going to say they're going to be a terrible team, but we've seen Jeffrey Lurie in the past couple of years. If things go wrong, he needs a scapegoat.
He always does.
Yeah. So if you have Lincoln saying, guess what? I don't want to come, but if you get Spencer, my guy, I'll come. You think they can't fire him after a 3-13 season?
Well, and I brought this up too. Like, it seems like for the first time in a long time that they're actually looking beyond this upcoming season with what they did yesterday. It seems like they have a long-term game plan in mind, and it seems like they're okay with being bad this season. Like, typically in previous off seasons, it's always like a quick retool. All right, let's bring in Jason Peters for another year. Let's keep Darren Sproles. How can we compete right now and try and make a run? Window of opportunity. We've heard these phrases. Now, for the first time with that trade yesterday, it does seem like they're saying, okay, let's try and gather assets and picks for the next couple years. So that conspiracy theory to me, John, doesn't seem too ridiculous. Maybe they would love to go 2-14 this upcoming season.
I'm not going to go that far. I don't think
Not
they
love,
want to.
but-
I don't think they want to lose. But I'm saying if
They're okay with it.
Well, I don't even know if they're okay with it. I'm just saying if things go off the rails and if Jalen Hurts is just bad and Joe Flacco's just bad, he's got to come in and he's got nothing left. And they do turn into a really bad team.
Mm-hmm.
Then I start to think, okay, and I go back to Jeffrey again. He's got to blame somebody. It's in his nature. I mean, that's just what he does. He wants somebody. He wants a scapegoat. He wants. Look, I cannot accept. He couldn't accept 4 wins with a Super Bowl winning coach. He sure as heck is not going to accept 3 wins with a guy who looks overmatched. Now, the point, though, I'm trying to say, the Eagles are not trying for that. They're not hoping for that. They're not saying, oh, this is our plan. They're trying to rebuild this team. They just understand they have to take their medicine because of Carson Wentz and the salary
right.
and the pandemic. So this year it's really difficult. And next year they want to get back into being typical Philadelphia Eagles. They're going to be on the free agent market. They're going to be flush with money. They're going to have all these picks. My only point is if the season is a disaster, then Jeffrey Lurie will start recalibrating when it comes to high-profile people. And there's not a more high-profile person than the head coach.
Do you think – how short of a leash does Jalen Hurts have this upcoming year? If maybe it's not short at all. Like, if he's playing terrible, when do we see Joe Flacco, if at all?
I don't think we see Joe Flacco at all unless Jalen Hurts is injured.
Okay. Because that I asked that question because that to me indirectly communicates to us their thought process on how they're approaching that season.
Now, I will say this, Ryan. If you get a high ankle sprain, which is a multi-week injury, and say Jalen starts 1-3, sprains his ankle, is out for 3-4 weeks, and Joe Flacco runs the table, then I think it becomes interesting. If Joe's successful in that short period and Jalen was unsuccessful before a minor injury where he's going to return, I think then it becomes a more difficult conversation because this team, this isn't the Sixers. This team, if they see an avenue to make the playoffs, they're gonna shoot for it.
Sure.
They're not going to say, "Oh no, we need the better draft pick. We need this." And I know people are going to bring up Week 17 and that's one game. That's one game. That's a big difference between a whole season. The Eagles are not going to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. Like just to talk about that, and we're short on time here, but just their overall approach on next season. If that was the situation, I don't know what I would want them to do. But
yeah. Well, we're going to continue talking about it every night with Ryan on the Fix here on AM 1490, Monday through Friday, Sports Betting Radio, 7 to 10. I'm on there, 7:30. Birds 365 is coming April 5th. Johnny Mac, Jody Mac, and we'll be back next week here Saturday morning, AM 1490, Sports Betting Radio. Until then, keep extending that play.
Football in Philadelphia is a lifestyle, a passion from birth, and a personal responsibility to know the game. Boo when necessary. And think about EAGLES! Every second of every minute of every hour of every day. Birds 365 was created for you. Jody Mack, the legendary sports talker, joins forces with NFL insider John McMullen. Birds 365. Start your morning with Johnny Mack and Jody Mack across the JAKIB Media Network. Watch it live on YouTube.